Okay, good afternoon, everyone. We're at that magic hour. Welcome to the October 24th meeting of the Macoupin Montgomery County ROSC. My name is Brian Polo. I am a person in long-term recovery, and I am one of your ROSC coordinators. For our folks online, I'll just announce one more time, please, if you could put your name, organization, email in the chat box. And for the folks live, there's a sign-in sheet going around. Also, in your emails for our online folks, there was MOUs, meeting survey, and there will be a survey coming out in the follow-up talking about when to meet in December, because we kind of are going to fall around the holidays, and we'd like to get y'all's opinion on that. And I think we'll just go ahead and start out. Is there anyone that's never been to our meeting before that would like to introduce himself? And I'll start out in person first. Very good. Thank you, Jenna. Welcome. Mason, welcome. I'm so glad to see you today. And very good. Thank you, George. And online, is there anyone that hasn't joined us before? I see a lot of familiar faces. Anyone?
I'm Elizabeth. I'm a person in long-term recovery, and I'm also an outreach worker for Oxford House, Inc.
Thank you, Elizabeth. I'm so glad you're here. And anyone else? I think that might cover it. So next slide. Okay, our leaders are all here, either in person or in spirit. Hi, Becky. Kent's over in Carlinville. Today is the first time we have tried a remote meeting. So for our friends in Macoupin County that can't make it over here or kind of want to be with other individuals during a meeting, not just sitting on the computer, we have a remote site that we're going to experiment with over the next somewhere between 3 and 6 months. We are at our Oakland Avenue Administration Office, and Elise and Lindsay and Carissa are all running that, and I sure appreciate them for doing that. And that's about it on our leadership. So next slide. Okay, so we have a pretty jam-packed agenda today. Our topic is going to be talking about programs and housing for people in recovery in this area. That's going to take up a majority, and we're going to try and have a short panel at the end of it. So everything else we're going to try to squeeze together so I can give our guests some time so they can share what's going on with their programs in the area. Next slide. Okay, announcements, and I'll zip through these. So this is officially Red Ribbon Week. That is basically Big Prevention Week that's been running since the 1980s. Again, without even saying, yay, if we can prevent from any of this stuff happening that we're dealing with today, go us. That's what we're there for. National Drug Take Back Day is the 29th. If you look at our Facebook page, you will see announcements for that and links to where you can drop off medications, prescription medications that are not being used that need to be disposed of. And GERCNA is having one of their big yearly doings, and that's the Narcotics Anonymous recovery program. They're having their big doings in Bloomington, Illinois, coming up in November. They have several events through the year, NA does, and I posted the link there to check it out. Again, our Al-Anon meetings are still happening. Emotions Anonymous still happening. AA meeting is now in Litchfield for about six to 7 weeks now. Not Litchfield, in Carlinville for 6 to 7 weeks. That was the first meeting since pre-pandemic in the Carlinville area. This Wednesday, the NA Hope Shop meeting at Gillespie at the Public Library. It's going to have a speaker. They do that once a month. And then I have a whole list of webinars there. It was like kind of like a lot of opportunities. So if you guys want to check that out, you are more than welcome to. And there may even be some CEUs if you need them. So next. Okay, some other announcements coming up is in 2 weeks, Crossover Ministries is having their Walk Out of the Darkness into His Light walk. Suicide prevention, I believe. Next. Okay, we have the big Metro East NA Thanksgiving feast coming up. Good times. I actually attended that several years ago, pre-pandemic, and they provide all the mainstays. You bring a side dish. Usually it's it's over 100 people is at that event. Next. Coming up in Litchfield, we have our Litchfield Community Thanksgiving meal on the 22nd. If you were wanting to volunteer, you can reach out to John Magnuson and he will hook you up. Next. And Chief Boston in Carlinville was nice enough to bring us this. There's going to be a crisis intervention conference in 2023. And if there would be anyone interested in either attending the conference or putting together a presentation for the conference, Chief Boston and Gerard sent us this information on how to do it. All of these things have been included in your emails and it will be included in follow-up if need be. Next. Okay, back to our access points on Safe Passage. Elise and Lindsay, you want to do a quick one on that? And then we'll go straight to an update on Safe Passage.
I think I see everybody on there now. We have 31 access points across both Macoupin and Montgomery County. Looking to add all the time. So if you know anybody or any place that would be a good spot, let us know.
Very good. And if you want to stay on, I'll let you just go ahead and we'll do a Safe Passage update for the month, Elise.
Okay. In September, we gave Safe Passage to 18 Macoupin and Montgomery County residents. 89% of them have either entered inpatient or outpatient treatment.
Amazing, amazing. And I'm curious, how many people do you have up there with you in Carlinville today?
Right now, it's just 3, expecting 2 more.
Okay. Well, you know what? Opportunity to grow.
Yep.
So next slide. And then a quick update for the clinics. I have August of 2022. That's my bad. That's actually should be September of 2022. We served 252 clients. 29 of them were new. 2 were referred to inpatient. 25 were referred to outpatient. Next slide. Okay, so we're at our top. I told you we'd zip right through those announcements. So I was kind of thinking, we've been doing some work on all the subcommittees, and it's like, we've had a couple meetings in a row where we were like, really rolled up our sleeves and did some work. And I'd like to say now it's time to have some fun, but it's not exactly fun. One of our subcommittees is housing. And we're looking at very short-term, long-term housing for people in recovery. And I thought, well, maybe there's some folks from our area or some folks interested in working in our area that might want to talk about the programs they have or the programs they're thinking about bringing. And I've been very blessed to have some contact with some folks. Next slide. Nationally, there are 2 major organizations that work on recovery housing. One is the NARR, National Alliance for Recovery Residences, and it's a nonprofit, works, I think home office is up north, and they work on basically expanding recovery housing throughout the country. And then the Fletcher Group runs out of Kentucky, and they work on building recovery ecosystems, but part of that is recovery housing. Those are good resources if you have any interest in it and would like to do some reading or maybe contact someone about how to make this happen. Next. So actually there are recovery housing, and when I define recovery housing, I'm basically going to say anything that someone in recovery might utilize that would have problems putting a roof over their head for any period of time as they're going through the process of entering recovery and starting to maintain a program. So real quick, they're basically as defined by the National Association of Recovery Residences. There's 4 levels of recovery housing. The level 1, things like Oxford houses or closely resemble Oxford houses. They're basically a home, no non-clinical services. The cost is basically rent, utilities, those things. They run as a democracy where the house tends to vote on things itself. And they don't have, say, any clinical services. They don't have in-house therapists. They don't do any urine drug screens, things of that nature. A lot of these houses do require their participants to participate in some sort of recovery program, but not within the house. They go outside of the house to do that. And once again, talking about cost, rent, utilities, and some shared expenses divided between the members in the house. Next slide. So next we go to level 2 and 3. And with each of these levels, you'll start seeing they get a little more services, a little more clinical. So the level 2, the way they're governed. Level 2 housing tends to have a supervisor that's elected that kind of enforces a sets of rules. And there may be something along the lines of drug screens, but again, no clinical services like, say, a therapist or medical coming in. Then we go to level 3. Level 3 is even a higher level of service. They're considered sober living homes, but they provide, I'm just actually going to read this. Their primary purpose is to still provide a substance-free environment for people to live in, but the programs are more structured than level 2 homes. They often include paid counselors and staff to assist patients in developing and following through on their aftercare plans. Most of the actual treatment doesn't happen on site, but certain life skills and support groups may be provided for the house. Most of the level 3 houses are overseen by a paid staff rather than a self-governing body. And the cost is a little bit higher because of that. And finally, going to level 4. Next slide. Level 4, it absolutely says level 4 are included in recovery residents. They wouldn't typically be considered sober living homes because they're basically the category of inpatient treatment rather than aftercare. They're most often referred to as therapeutic communities. They're structured, clinical, and usually full service, meaning that residents don't have to go off-site for treatments. And for you folks, I listed a whole series of resources that you can read further on this. And then we will go to our next slide. And that kind of brings us to our moment where we have these good folks willing to share with us today. First off, I'd like to apologize. Adult and Teen Challenge, we're going to be here in person. They had something come up and we're not able to make it. So I'm just going to speak a moment about them. So Adult and Teen Challenge is a nationwide organization, faith-based recovery home. The program is usually 12, it can be up to 12 to 15 months. It is non-clinical and the emphasis is a faith-based recovery program. It falls along the somewhere between a level 1 and level 2, but closer to a level 2, maybe even a little bit of level 3. We are very blessed in our area to have a Adult and Teen Challenge facility in Carlinville, Illinois. Kathleen Stewart is the director there, and they have a house supervisor intake coordinator. Currently, it's Heather Weinberger, and they can house up to 16 people. Basically, there's an application fee that they have scholarships for if an individual is interested, and then once they're accepted to the program, there is no cost beyond that, except for they help them get benefits if they need it, like health insurance, benefits like SNAP, and they utilize those benefits pooled together to help run the house. And then Actually, sorry guys, I kind of have the phone number on there, but if anyone needs it, I do have the phone number to be able to contact. They are right here in the area. It is a all women's facility. Adult and Teen Challenge does have a men's facility, but it's in Pekin, Illinois. Doesn't mean you can't utilize it. It's just a little further out. So I kind of got the next things backwards, but I'm going to introduce first my new friend, Elizabeth Applegate from Oxford House Incorporated. Up till a year ago, Oxford House, the normal model has been you could charter a house, send in your charters to Oxford House Incorporated, and that would be it. About a year ago, Oxford House in the state of Illinois decided to start cooperating more. And so we have an actual individual in the state of Illinois with Oxford House Incorporated. His name is AJ Dunway. And then in each region, there is a outreach worker, and that's where Miss Elizabeth comes in. She is our outreach worker for the Metro East area. And at this moment, I'm going ahead and turn things over to Elizabeth, and I think I have her slideshow ready to go. So Elizabeth, the floor is all yours.
Hello, thank you so much. Again, my name is Elizabeth Applegate. I am a person in long-term recovery, and I'm also an outreach worker for Oxford House. There are actually 7 of us in the state. AJ is my boss. He does a superb job. Before I came to the Metro East area, I was the outreach worker for Rockford. That was fun. We had a lot of fun there. I'm very excited to get to know you guys. I'm a terrible public speaker, by the way. This. So Oxford House. And again, I apologize for these slides. One of my other coworkers had made them. But what is Oxford House? We're single family homes, fully self-supporting, peer ran. We kind of go, so each house has positions in the house. We don't, we have trusted servants, not like officials. So you get 6 positions in the house: president, treasurer, comptroller, secretary, people that help the house run smoothly. But because we're trusted servants, the positions rotate like every 6 months. And there's some actual real life, what's the word that I'm looking for? It helps with real life. So like the treasurer, they're in charge of like the overall financials of the house. So like paying bills, writing the checks out, things like that. When people first come into Oxford House, they don't always know how to do things like that. So that's pretty great. Recovery-based guidelines, and we're 100% democratic. So me being an outreach worker, I'm not a boss or anything like that. I'm just another alcoholic addict that is trying to help, everybody in recovery. Newcomer expectations. So when you first come into the house, we are on something called newcomer. It's a probationary guideline. You get 2 weeks to get a sponsor, job, and a home group. 11 p.m. curfew, and it's midnight on Friday and Saturdays, 5 meetings a week, and no overnights. You also, and a lot of that stuff is to help you kind of like get comfortable in your new environment and get to know your peers better. Because since we don't drug test, we're a behavioral based model. So the stronger that you know the people you live with, the easier it is to catch on to behaviors. After 30 days with the zero balance, you have a 2 a.m. curfew. You get 3 overnights a week, and you do 3 meetings a week. You can do more if you want. That's just the minimum. And each house is different. Like, that's one of the things that I love about Oxford House, is that each house has autonomy to do, like, kind of create their own environment. So there's some houses where church counts as a meeting, or IOP will count for a meeting, and it's really just based on the individuals living at that house at the time. So Oxford House versus a sober living. So we are a non-for-profit. You have to pay rent. It's not, everybody contributes something. It's a democracy. Like I said, like everything gets voted on, whether it's if you guys want new to paint the walls, or if you want to get a new washer and dryer, like it's a majority vote. that we don't have any minimum or maximum, and we are data supported. So we are also the only transitional living in the nation that has a study to back us up. A normal sober living, never mind. Sorry. So a normal sober living, it's for-profit, house managers, limited stay, no supporting data, which you guys could have read. So this is one of our houses. Something that Oxford House is also doing differently from back in the olden days is our houses are put in really good neighborhoods. We try to, our thinking is that we are trying to do better in life. And so me personally, I come from the projects. I had a really rough childhood, and I never thought that living in a nice neighborhood is something that I could achieve. And now it's incredible. With my sobriety, my support group, we have neighbors, we have to mow the lawn. It's great, honestly. But this is one of our houses in Bloomington. So, and it's just gonna be a couple more slides of the house. Mm-hmm. It is a beautiful home. All of our houses are really nice. In Rockford, our Rock River house is a 13-man house, and it's expensive, but it's worth it. And we've actually found out the more expensive the house, and the more members in a house, the better it does. So we had our first retreat. So we have to call them workshops now because it sounds more official, but we had a retreat not too long ago, and it was incredible. It was such a spiritual experience. Everybody working on recovery, just learning more about the Oxford House model. You can see my little braids. We had Tom Farley come and speak for us. That was fun. He was a good guy. Questions? Yay, my favorite part. I can stop embarrassing myself.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead, Steve.
Court mandated program or author comments both? You might have to repeat the question, Brian.
So Steve was wondering if it's a court mandated program, voluntary, or both.
Both. So one of the things, again, that I love about Oxford House is we're all inclusive. So you could just have gotten decided that you were through yesterday from drinking or doing drugs and interview for a house the next day. It doesn't matter your sobriety. And we do work closely with courts and reentry to get people in to houses.
Any other
I
questions?
got a question.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we have an online question. Go ahead.
I actually have two questions, but they're really short and easy, I think. You said that each house has autonomy. Does the leadership of those 6 trusted servants kind of set the tempo for that?
No, so the positions are really just to get things done. So every week they have something called a house meeting or a business meeting, and that's where they go through reports of like, hey, these are the bills that we've got to pay, or hey, so and so is having a problem with whoever. So like the president of the house, it sounds real official, but it's probably the easiest position in the house because all you're there to do is just kind of like keep the meeting running, you know, just tell everybody what's on the agenda. And then, so like everybody gets the same voice regardless if you have a position or not.
I guess what I was asking is, you know, how each week, like when you first come, you have to do more meetings, and then, you know, it's a gradual step down. Like, how do you determine what those, you know, like standards are? Who makes those, or is it just voted on by the whole house?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just voted on by the whole house.
Okay, that's what I was wondering, because you know it can be kind of confusing. We got all these positions, and then, but when it comes to what actually happens in the house, everybody has the equal vote. I mean,
Yeah, so
Yeah.
like I said, so the positions, they're just they're basically like jobs just to help. So like if everybody was trying to, keep track of the bills would probably be scattered all over the house. Like
Makes sense. That makes sense. That makes sense. And the other question I wanted to ask you was, uh, and I've never lived in an Oxford house, but I did live in almost like one of these level threes, but we didn't pay anything because I was a veteran. It was just, but I wanted to ask you, why do you think the nicer the house, the more people, the easier or the better things work? Why do you think that is?
Partly because so if you have something nice, you're gonna want to try to keep it nice. And so the more people in the house, normally the better it is because you have more income coming in. Since we all pay the same amount of rent, say you have a 13-man house, even if you don't have 13 people living in that, because you have that turnover. We have this thing called an EES calculator. And what it does is it calculates all the bills, the rent, the utilities, and how much each person should have to pay in order to keep that up. And typically when we open a house, we raise that EES a little bit more just so that they have that cushion. So in case of fluctuation, the house could still run like sufficiently on like 6 or 7 people. So it's a combination of all those things.
I have a question, Brian. Elizabeth and I have had a conversation already, but how is the view on the background checks for the individuals that live there?
Oh, we don't do background checks.
Yeah, that's what I wanted everybody to know, because I think that's a fantastic thing. Not only that, but the houses you guys choose, I think it's all fantastic. Yeah, I just wanted everybody else to know.
Yeah, and so we do interviews to get into a house. What you typically do is you just call the contact point for that house and they set up an interview. There's 2 different types. There's an emergency interview and then you have your regular interviews. Emergency interviews happen like the person is on the streets or they need to leave a situation, the interview has to happen immediately. Regular interviews, they usually schedule them on the day their house meeting is, just because everybody's already together. But during that interview, it's not so much them trying to say you're worthy or you're not worthy. They're just trying to get to know you.
Sure. Okay, Christine was wondering, what have you found to be your biggest challenges?
Biggest challenges? Biggest challenges. So probably involvement at first, because a lot of people, they do come into an Oxford house assuming it's like a regular sober living, and they're not used to having that accountability for themselves. So once they get in there, if the house is trained right and they like people come in and you're loving and you're empathetic, but you're also like accountable, like you left a cup in the sink. That's not how we do things here. You don't shame them for it or anything. You just say, hey, let's try to do better. But then the next time that it happens, it's like, okay, well, as a house, let's try to, no, there's no age limits. So anybody under 18, so we have women and children houses, we have men and children houses, we have regular men and we have regular women. If somebody is trying to get into a house and they're under 18, we do need them to be either emancipated or have parental permission.
Okay, very good. Hi, Julie has a question. Okay, Julie was asking, in the past, there had to be a population-based, a certain number for a house to open. And I think that kind of leads us to one of the points we were trying to make too. Currently, is Oxford House backing off from that? Or I'm just curious, Elizabeth, hint, hint, drop, what is the plans for Oxford House that we're talking about it here in this rural area today?
So I had talked to my boss. It's something that we're definitely looking into. It is going to be a couple, I believe he said at least 8 months, 6 to 8 months, something like that, just because we're trying to stabilize the areas we already have right now and then move into the rural areas. I believe we have like 6 or 7 houses opening in the next month or two. So it's not a matter of, you guys are definitely going to get a house. We just have to move that way.
So where's south of Wilmington, are they?
Oh, yes. Wow. Hi. So currently, and actually I can help answer that. So, and Elizabeth, you can tag in here. So in the Metro East area, right now, there's roughly how many houses now, and how many will there be in the next few months?
So the Metro East, there's the house that I'm currently in. There's the Granite City house. We are opening the Newman's house. I believe we're shooting for the 5th of November if we get the keys. We're going to have another women's house. We're currently searching for that right now. And then I think one more house. I don't know where it's going to be exactly yet.
Okay. And in the Springfield area?
Springfield, so they just opened a house. They're opening another one. I don't know if they secured it or not. So Springfield is actually my coworker, Diamond. And so for all these areas, I have their contact information as well. So the Bloomington normal area is Ethan. DuPage would be Courtney. Peoria is Zach. And Rockford is Low.
Okay. And if I understood from our conversations, Elizabeth, what they're doing is they're anchoring some larger urban areas and then are moving into the rural areas, and those houses in the larger population areas will help support in some way or another the rural houses until they get more independent, correct?
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's, I was actually having a conversation with somebody earlier, because they had said that they had tried to set up a house similar to Oxford House. It was at that, ILACP thing. Anyways, so they had tried to set up a house like Oxford House, but it was a standalone house. So it did really well for about 6 months, and then it kind of fell off. And part of the best thing about Oxford House is that support. So we have the houses, we have a chapter, and then we have state. So if a house in that area were to fall off for, rent, just no participation or whatever, it can draw on those other resources to help build it back up. We actually have people that are, yeah.
Okay, very good. And I want to thank everyone for their questions. Elizabeth, I want to thank you for the time today. And we will, as a council, we will continue to be engaging with Oxford House continually. I highly suggest, as we engage with Oxford House, that maybe the housing committee be a part of that. And Elizabeth, I'm going to thank you, and to kind of move on. Oh, wait a minute, one other question.
How do you manage people coming into that house and hiding from you? You also have a program.
Okay, that's a good question. Actually, Christine had one more question. How do you manage individuals that would come into the house with, again, we know substance use, but maybe a dual diagnosis too?
So that is on, so it's actually in one of our traditions. We accept everybody, and is the person willing to go seek outside treatment? So say you come into the house and you have schizophrenia. If you aren't taking your medication, or your behaviors are off, the house would ask them to go seek like professional help, and then come back with, documentation. And if they aren't willing to abide by the guidelines that their doctors have set out for them, we might recommend that they go seek a more structured environment.
Very good. Thank you so much. So again, thank you so much, Elizabeth. And to kind of shift gears a little bit, we're going to move from what we hope we will be seeing in our area in the near future to an organization that's been here since the late 1980s. Continuing Recovery Center is a sober living house, housing option, level 3 house, has been open since, again, I just said, in the late 80s in Montgomery County. some of the greatest successes of recovery in our area that are now community members that are active have graduated from CRC. And here to speak about it is the program manager, George Campbell, who has been very gracious for our presence. So I'd like everyone to welcome George. Thank you, George.
Get the right level. Hey, good afternoon, everyone. My name is George Campbell. As Brian introduced me, I'm the program manager at Continuing Recovery Center. Been there for 5 years now. A little history background. Well, just Continuing Recovery Center is a level 3 transitional living program. We try to set up a home environment experience for people that's recovering from substance abuse. We are level 3, we're state funded and have grants through the some homeless grants and things like that. That's how we're able to function. We have 2 staff there, myself, an office person, and she also is acting night manager. So she lives there and monitors the place at night. We do provide some individual counseling on a really small level, and just try to link the individuals with outside resources that they may need. We have a linkage agreement with Montgomery County Health Department for any mental health issues someone might present with. And then we have a doctor in town that provides medical services for them. He's also part of our board members. He's the president of our board. We monitor their medication, but we don't disperse it. There's no medical staff there, but we monitor their medication and make sure they stay on it and things like. A person doesn't necessarily have to, if they have any kind of mental disorder, they don't necessarily have to follow through with counseling or medication or anything like that. But if their symptoms become disruptive for them or the facility, they wouldn't be able to stay there. We'd work with them, try to encourage them to get back in their meds and that. CRC is, I don't know if I mentioned, it's right now, we have accommodations for 12 individuals. They are, like I said, they're managed by staff most of the, 8 hours of the day through the evening. We do have the night manager, but they also are self-governed to a certain extent. They have a set of rules that they're expected to abide by. We have a house manager that encourages them to stick to the rules and follow the rules. And if they don't, there's a series of consequences that they might endure. A person can stay at CRC up from 6 months to 2 years. They not allowed to seek employment for the first 6 months. We give them time to establish a recovery foundation for themselves, a little bit more it's individuals that have attempted to stop using drugs or alcohol in the past and haven't been able to have any kind of long-standing periods of abstinence. And acquiring a job and things like that are pretty simple for people. Being able to live a lifestyle that demands the kind of behavior that allows for long-term abstinence is a little bit more difficult for some individuals. So they're afforded that opportunity to establish that foundation there. After 6 months, they can find part-time employment. will in the area, if they was able to, or if they chose to seek out some full-time employment, we'd give them would enter an agreement with them and give them up to 2 months to transition from where they're at CRC into some independent living on their own. We'd give them that 2-month buffer. While they're at CRC, they are required, every day they have a structured that they go, they follow. Wake up in the morning and expect, their area of their bedroom and their bed and all that, keep that clean. They eat breakfast at 8:30. By the way, the residents cook all the meals for each other. So they're assigned, they make the menu up and they assign they choose what meals they want to cook. It all depends. Right now, I imagine they cook at least 2 meals a week, and in a hierarchy. The last person there, that they get stuck with whatever meals that are left over, but they get to pick what meals they want to cook for each other, and they pretty much make the menu. We have a dietitian that we have a linkage agreement with, and she just makes sure that we're following the guidelines. Proper dietary guidelines for, to suit the state. So whenever somebody makes a meal, they're responsible for, we have a kitchen manager that preps or sets out what's needed for the meal. The person that's cooking the meal, they're responsible for cooking the meal, presenting it, and cleaning it up afterwards. And then, so they eat breakfast in the morning. At 8:30, we have what we call a transportation meeting, just set for the pace of the day, let everybody know what appointments they have going on. At 9 o'clock, we host a 12-step support group meeting every morning at 9 o'clock, 6 days out of the week. So from 9 to 10, they're in a meeting. People from community will come and join the meeting. There might be 1 or 2 individuals from the community to attend any given meeting. From 10 to 1, it's their time for self-reflection. They're not able to watch TV or take naps and things like that, but no working out or anything like that. But there's talking with sponsors, reading, like I said, personal self-reflection. 1 o'clock, we have a staff ran group 4 days out of the week. And then 2 o'clock, chores, they're all assigned some type of chore in the building somewhere. Generally takes them 20, 30 minutes to perform their chores, and then they're free again from 3:30, they're allowed to start using the gym, TV, different things like that. Eat at 5 o'clock in the evening. 6:30, 7 o'clock, they prepare to go to an outside meeting. We transport them to an outside 12-step meeting in the area. We, drive them, we cover 30-mile distance. We take them out to meetings 5 days out of the week. And then 2 days out of the week, they host an evening meeting there. There's no upfront fee for an individual coming into our agency or facility. Like I said, we're funded through the state and some grants. The state does require a shared responsibility fee that we accumulate, that a person will accumulate, and we'll give them a bill or an invoice at the end of their stay, and ask them to go enter into a payment agreement for 6 months. On average, it may be $2,500 that they accumulate, and we'd ask them to agree to pay like $5 a month until it's paid off. I actually I've been there for 5 years. I actually had one person that was there that went through CRC probably 10 to 12 years ago. She was living in some area in northern Italy. Her family's in St. Louis area. She came back for Christmas and wanted to come and pay her fee for being there. Went through it, and I calculated what she still owed. She thought she owed a certain amount, found out it was less, but she was glad to pay it all off. Give us a couple $1,000, and which and that's more for in the recovery community. They have this concept or philosophy that's being financially responsible for themselves, and so we give them that opportunity to do that. She actually was the speaker for our meeting that month. Since she came back, she happened to be coming back in the right time to be our speaker. Brian mentioned that CRC has been around since 1988. It was founded by some people in the area that were members of Alcoholics Anonymous support group meetings. It was 2 women. There was probably 4 to 6 people involved in starting, but them 2 were the primary ones that founders of it. They sold their property and put that towards purchasing an old school building, and the group of them got together and was remodeling it for turning into living accommodations. And I think Montgomery County Health Department started overseeing it approximately 20 years ago. Before that, it was just a board overseeing it, and it was a program manager that was hired through them, and generally was volunteer work from the residents that was living there to run the office and that. Then like 20 years ago, it got a little bit more professionalized, I guess you want to call it. The state wanted somebody to oversee us, and I'm actually hired by the Montgomery County Health Department to manage it. I think it pretty much covers most of that. If there's any questions of something I never covered.
George, how many residents can it hold?
Right now, we accept 12 at a time. The state, we accept 12 at a time. I think state regulations might allow us a little bit more, but we're keeping it to that number.
Okay, does anyone have any questions in the audience? It's covered. And does anyone online have any questions? You must have covered it pretty darn good.
One thing I didn't talk about was the admission process or how you're accepted into CRC. One of our requirements, you got to be a person. It's co-ed, by the way. The person needs to be 21 or older. The only really we don't do backgrounds. We do some simple background checks. We'll look in the sex offender registry. So a person's a registered sex offender, they cannot come there. So if they're in Illinois, if they're in that registry, they wouldn't be allowed to come there. We require a person to have been through some type of formal residential drug and alcohol treatment within the last year. We'd like to see them come from residential treatment into our program, but if there's a gap there, they need to convince us that they've been maintaining some type of sobriety or been drug free before they come there. They can't be actively using and come there. We do some screening that hopefully we would filter the person out if they was actually using. If a person was actively using, it'd be better for them if they went to some type of formal residential treatment first and was stabilized and then came to us.
Do you anticipate the time when Montgomery County residents will be accepted for the
Right now, our philosophy is not to accept anybody within like a 25-mile radius. However, it's, you know, it's individualized. We have had people that requested to enter into our program, and we reviewed them and looked at them. We've had to have some people like through drug court. They referred people to us, and we've accepted a couple of them over the years. It's our philosophy not to, like I said, within a 20-mile radius of Irving. It's just what we found out is too easy just for them individuals to be exposed to elements that's not supportive to their recovery. And it's damaging to the rest of the residents there. And so that's why we don't do it that often. Like I said, we do it on an individual basis.
Does anyone else have any questions? Okay, George, thank you.
You're welcome.
So, I guess we're go ahead and ready to move on to our next thing. We're a couple minutes early. I just want to thank everyone again for being here. We're going to have our moment of wellness, and I'd like to introduce Benjamin Loftus. Today is his first day with Recovery Corps as a recovery navigator at St. Francis Way Clinic. And again, just another miracle of the stuff going on in this area. So Ben, if you want to come on up.
Thank you, Brian. Welcome, everybody. Glad to be here. I really didn't know what I was going to talk about. I never, I just asked my higher power to guide my words. I am grateful to have started at St. Francis Way. I'm looking forward to being engaged in the community. I guess part of my moment of wellness would be to tell a little bit about my story. I grew up in a good family. I got lost spiritually, divorced family, various things. I isolated, and I was depressed, angry, lonely, all of that. And God saw fit for me to get arrested, be put in jail, and that's where a lot of my reflection and growing closer to God, to my higher power, started. Then I did go to CRC. I was there for 15 months, and the power of connection, I believe God works through other people. Especially that's been the case with me. And really, I started to get my natural highs back, and I guess I want to let everybody know that's out there that has friends or family that it's possible for anybody. You get that connection back. It's like it's a beautiful trickle effect, and it's enabled me to meet a lot of people in the community. I've worked with I worked as a lifeguard for a number of years and got to meet a lot of people in the community. All that was possible in recovery through a sober life, through people giving me chances. CRC helped me really learn to, manage my life better, to appreciate things more on a basic level, routines. And I became a much more compassionate and kind person. So I think I've been reading a book on that, The Power of Kindness, and you'd be amazed what a smile will do. Just a couple kind words, just giving somebody your time. And I really look forward to doing that with St. Francis Way now. And I'm really grateful. And I guess definitely I would say don't be afraid to reach out to anybody that's out there that, you know, that's definitely asking for it or that's sad. You'd be amazed what you can do just simply introducing yourself, giving them encouragement. Encouragement is huge. I got a lot of encouragement along the way, and that's what I try to do now. I feel very blessed, and all these resources that we talk about, that we've been talking about the last couple months, the group that I've been involved in with stigma reduction is really big, because a lot of people, I think they're just afraid to reach out for the feeling that they might be judged a certain way, or they just, you know, I don't know, they feel isolated. So my goal is going to be to help that group and help every other group as much as I can, and help people get connected to these resources, and just to be an encourager and to let people know that it's possible. And that I appreciate everybody's participation, everybody's work here. I think we are doing God's work at whatever level we can. And yeah, I would just encourage people to be an encourager, to be kind when you can. Like I said, whether it's a few nice words, conversation, just listening to somebody. Other than that, yeah, I don't really have much more than that. I'm grateful to be here.
Thank you so much, Ben. And kind of this all ties it together today. The ROSC, why are we here? Why have we been coming here for a year? We kind of are looking out there, seeing what we have in our area. CRC, Adult and Teen Challenge. We had someone who has came through what we do have in our area, or what we've had in our area, Ben, who's now giving back in an incredible way. And part of what the ROSC is doing is what's out there that works that we don't have. And Elizabeth was a perfect example of what we hopefully will be bringing to this area. Again, the ROSC coordinators, we don't do anything. What we do is we try to connect people to help build the supports in this area. I am so grateful to do that. This morning I posted on our Facebook page, MMCR Facebook page, if you get a chance, like and follow. But I posted about how grateful I am to be working with each and every one of you. And I can't believe that I'm getting to do this for a living. I'm just so grateful. Our next meeting is November what? 28th. Okay, Monday after Thanksgiving. Thank you everyone for attending today. Please, again, there will be the survey that will be sent to you about how the meeting was. There's always room for improvement. Let us know. MOUs, if you've not signed one since July, and all those webinars and all sorts of cool stuff. And if you would like to speak further with anyone that presented today, just reach out to Jen and myself, and we will be happy to connect you. Everyone have a great, safe week. And that's it. Thanks, guys.
Good job, everybody. Great meeting.